contacted two of the applicants, and I think they're about to log on. Mackenzie is just going to get us started from the live YouTube portion, and then she'll give us the go ahead when she's good. Okay, we should be good to go.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to the Town of Fort Erie Committee of Adjustment meeting of March 17th, 2022. Please note that this meeting is being live streamed on YouTube. I will now call this meeting to order. First, I'd like to introduce you to the committee members and staff. To my top left is David Gianfrancisco, committee member. To my top right is Ken Burden, committee member. To my bottom left is Brianna Antonio, secretary treasurer, who will be recording minutes of tonight's meeting. And to the bottom right is Mackenzie Cece, meeting host, who will be doing the back-end technical duties. And myself, Terry Moore, chair of tonight's meeting. To those members of the public who may be participating electronically in the public meeting portion of this meeting tonight, you may wish to put your view on gallery view by clicking the top right corner from speaker view. I also ask that you are mindful of background noises for the duration of this meeting. Please also note that the participating members of the public will remain in the virtual waiting room via telephone or electronically until they are called upon during the public meeting. This is a statutory public meeting under the Planning Act for the purposes of considering both minor variances and consent applications. Members of the committee have been provided with all written comments received by agencies and the public prior to the meeting. Committee members are asked to mute their microphones until they are asked to speak. Please raise your hand if you wish to speak and vote by raising your hand. The purpose of the meeting is to obtain input from residents relative to the applications. Those participating online via Zoom will be asked to raise their virtual hand when they wish to speak. On a computer, you can do so by clicking on participants in the bottom center of the screen and then clicking raise hand. On a mobile device, you can tap more in the bottom right and then tapping raise hand. You will then be brought into the meeting by staff. You can then unmute yourself and start your video by using the buttons on your screen. If you are participating by phone and you wish to raise your hand, press *9 and you will be unmuted by the staff. First, we'll hear the applicant or agent, then from those supporting or in opposition to the application or to ask questions. We ask each attendee to keep their comments under 10 minutes to allow all attendees the opportunity to speak. Applicants and attendees are advised that they are free to leave the webinar once a decision has been made on their application. Each application will proceed in the following order. Secretary Treasurer to summarize purpose and effect of application and any comments received. Applicant called upon to speak and make further comment if they have any. Committee members will be asked to ask questions of the applicant. The public will then be asked to speak one at a time and to state their full name and address for the purpose of any comments they may have towards the application. Chair will close the applications once all comments have been heard. Committee members will make a decision on the application, approved, refused, or deferred, and state any conditions that apply. Please address your comments and questions directly through the chair. Each application will be heard in the order in which it appears on the agenda. The notice of decision will be provided to all applicants, stating the outcome of the hearing and any conditions of approval if required. Please note that correspondence commitments received this evening are restricted to matters of the Committee Adjustment and the Planning Act. In considering each application this evening, the Committee of Adjustment will have due regard for the provisions of Section 45 and Section 53 of the Ontario Planning Act of 1990 as amended. A 20-day appeal period exists for each application heard this evening. Final appeal dates are noted on the notice of decision and are available by requesting a copy in writing. I will begin by asking the committee members present if they have any conflict of interest with respect to any of the applications to be heard tonight. David?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
Ken?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
And I do not. I now ask the Secretary Treasurer if notice of this meeting was properly given in accordance with the provisions of the Ontario Planning Act.
Yes, it was, Mr. Chair. All property owners within 60 meters of the subject properties were circulated as per Planning Act requirements.
Thank you. And have you received any requests for adjournment or withdrawal respecting any of tonight's applications?
We have received one application requesting deferral to the April 17th Committee of Adjustment hearing. The applicant for application A1922 for 2156 Hope Crescent is requesting a deferral to the April 17th Committee of Adjustment hearing.
Thank you. If there's anyone in the audience that is here for that application, it won't be heard tonight, but it will be recirculated prior to being scheduled. So thank you. We will now proceed with the first application tonight. It's consent file B1022. The address is 3719 Highland Drive. Applicant is Upper Canada Consultants, Ethan Lamon, and owner is Susan Leslie. Mackenzie, could you bring the applicant in, please? Good afternoon, Mr. Is it Lamon?
Good evening, Chair. I pronounce it Lamon. Lamon is fine.
Okay. All right, thank you. Are you ready to proceed?
I'm ready to proceed. I do have a short PowerPoint presentation I'd like to give.
All right, thank you. Before we do that, could the Secretary Treasurer please read a summary of related correspondence and comments received, please?
Yes, I can. So application B1022 for 3719 Highland Drive, submitted by applicant Ethan Lamon and owner Susan Leslie, is a consent application that proposes the creation of a new lot for the future residential development. Parcel 1 on the severance sketch, municipally known as 3719 Highland Drive, is a retained parcel and will continue its use as a residential dwelling. The new lot, described as Parcel 2 on the application sketch, is intended for future construction of a single detached dwelling. Staff has reviewed the application, has no objection to the consent application, subject to the following 5 conditions. Installation of a parking space on Parcel 1 in accordance with the requirements of the zoning bylaw, removal of the shipping container in the detached garage on Parcel 2, payment of 5% cash in lieu of parkland dedication to the town of Fort Erie for the creation of a new residential lot, that the applicant, solicitor, and or land surveyor provide the Secretary Treasurer with a legal description of the subject parcel to be registered on title, together with the original electronic copy in PDF and AutoCAD DWG format of the deposited reference plan for the use of the issuance of certificate of consent, and payment of the final consent certification fee required upon the applicant's demonstration of the completion of conditions. Building Services has reviewed the application and requests that Parcel 2 does not have a main parcel, and has stated Parcel 2 does not have a main use, and so therefore the accessory building will need to be removed in order to comply with zoning bylaw. They've also made note that an entrance permit will be required for the new driveway that will be required for Parcel 1. Infrastructure Services Department is requesting the following 3 conditions: that the applicant or owner make payment of $500 to the town of Fort Erie for 1 tree to be planted on the boulevard. That condition number 2, that an overall lot grading plan for Part 2 be submitted by the applicant or owner. And number 3, that the applicant or owner provide the town the location of the existing services, water service, and sanitary lateral from their respective main lines to the road allowance and where they enter the existing dwelling on the property. We have circulated the highway ministry of the MTO here, and they have provided that the consent files are located outside of the MTO permit control area. Our drainage superintendent has provided that 3719 Highland Drive is inside the man drain watershed. And we do have some public comments that have been submitted by Carol Ann Moore, which read, "We would like to make the statement that we object to the severance of the property located at 3719 Highland Drive Ridgeway. We feel shoehorning a house into the small lot will take away the beauty and the privacy of the Century homes that would be adjacent to this property." And that is all for comments and conditions.
Great, thank you. Mr. Lamont, would you like to comment on the application?
Yes, I'd like to share a brief presentation. I'll just share my screen now. So I trust everybody can see that.
Yep.
So good evening, Chair and committee members. My name is Ethan Lamont. I'm a junior planner at Upper Canada Consultants. I'm representing Sue Leslie, the owner of 3719 Highland Drive, for this consent application. So as a bit of an overview of the property, it's located at the corner of Highland Drive and South Mill Street. It's generally surrounded by single detached dwellings. There's also the Joseph Brant School located to the east, and there's a church as well located to the west. So the applicant is proposing to sever the southern part of the property for single detached dwelling. The existing dwelling is going to be retained on parcel 1. So parcel 1 would be 10,027 square meters, which is about a quarter of an acre, and parcel 2 would be 490 square meters. So this application actually went before council, I believe last November. Council essentially permitted the zoning parameters to allow for this severance sketch to go, or this severance application to go through. So through that rezoning, the lot containing the existing dwelling remains in the R1 zone. However, there were some site-specific provisions added to recognize the location of the existing dwelling relative to the lot lines. And the proposed dwelling was rezoned as a site-specific R2 with site-specific provisions for minimum lot area and as well as site-specific use provision to restrict the use of the property for short-term rental. One thing we'd like to request of the committee this evening is to consider waiving the requirement for an extra parking space to be provided for parcel 1. The condition states that a parking space per the zoning bylaw be provided on parcel 1. And it's stated in the staff report that this is due to comments received through the public process for the zoning bylaw amendment. I'll just note that the zoning bylaw requires 1 parking space be provided for a single detached dwelling in Fort Erie. The dwelling already has a parking space in the garage to the rear of the dwelling on South Mill Street, which is where the owner currently parks her vehicle. The garage is large enough to accommodate a fairly large vehicle. It's about 20 feet wide, and I believe about 30 feet long. Also, the proposed dwelling would have, or is anticipated to have, a 2-car garage with a double wide driveway, which would be able to accommodate more parking than is required in the zoning bylaw. So the application wouldn't have any effect on any existing parking issues in the area. And furthermore, there's a decorative wall in front of the house, which I believe to be original to the home. The only place, so if I go back one slide, the only place that the parking area can actually be accommodated on the property is in this area in the north east corner. The zoning bylaw requires that a parking space be located at least 7.5 meters from an intersection. So that's the reason that this is the only spot where a parking space can fit. So there is this decorative wall in the front, which would be required to be removed to accommodate a parking space. And as well, there's also a hydro pole right in the center of that area as well. And I understand that it's fairly costly to have to relocate a hydro pole. So based on that information, we'd be requesting that the committee consider waiving that as a condition of approval. And actually one more condition, the shipping container that was located on parcel 2 that's noted in the conditions of approval has actually since been removed. So committee may also consider removing that as a condition of approval. However, if it does remain as a condition of approval, it would be easy for the owner to waive that as it's already gone. So I'll leave it there in terms of my presentation, and I'll pass it back over for questions and comments.
Okay, thank you. Do the committee members have any questions? David, I'll start with you.
I do not at the moment, Mr. Chair.
Ken?
Just a question to Jerry. No, sorry. I'm looking at the one, Ethan. Ethan, I'm understanding what you're saying, that the garage would serve as the parking space requirement. Am I correct in that, what you're saying?
That is correct. The garage is considered as a parking space.
Which is essentially a garage. Okay. And what you're suggesting then is where you, in your PowerPoint depiction of the 3 parking spaces along Highland Drive, that would be, I suppose, in a way, cost prohibitive and somewhat other prohibitive to accommodate even just a single space.
I think the cost is, through you, Chair, I believe the cost is one prohibition. I believe also the removal of a portion of that decorative stone wall would take away from sort of the character of the area. That wall is really integral to not only the character of the property, but to the entire area. The house is located at the corner of Highland Drive in South Mill Street, so it's got a bit of a more priority type lotting there. So it would just be a little bit unfortunate for there to be a driveway pushed in the middle of that wall. And the cost is just another issue with it.
So going back to the garage, Ethan, is the garage part of the house? Is it is it constructed as part of the house, or is it sort of separate?
Through you, Chair, the house or the garage is attached to the house. However, I do not believe that there may or may not be a direct connection into the house. But in terms of actual construction, the garage would be considered part of the house. It is attached to the house.
Okay. And there's no apron to that garage in terms of a parking space, correct?
You mean
In front of the garage, there's no sort of space that would be considered part of the property, as I see it, as a parking space in front of the garage.
through you, Chair. So one of the site-specific provisions that was approved for through the rezoning was to permit a non-conforming setback to the exterior lot line. So that's an existing condition. So I believe there's actually just under a meter of property in between the face of the garage and the road allowance. So there wouldn't be enough space on the property itself to be able to accommodate a vehicle, although practically not being able to see the lot lines, from the road, it would appear that there would be enough space to accommodate a vehicle, although part of the vehicle would be on public property.
Is there any part of the garage that is used for habitation?
No, there is not.
Okay. Those are my questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Just for clarification then, the reason they want an extra parking spot is because you can't park a car in front of the garage door. That it would jut out or extend onto the road?
Through
You
you, Chair,
park the vehicle there?
my understanding is that the condition was a response to concerns brought up by neighbors about general parking issues in the area. So I believe that the condition would be to provide additional parking on this property to alleviate some of those parking concerns. I don't believe it had anything to do with the location of the garage, or even considering the fact that the garage is already a parking space.
I do realize that South Mill is when kids are picking up and being dropped off as a zoo right on that street. That's the concern, correct? But how would that affect the parking on the street? I don't quite understand the condition, why it was put in if they're worried about it affecting the parking on South Mill during school, I guess. I don't understand the logic.
That was my understanding as well, Chair, is that the parking issue was due to the parents dropping off children for school. So it's sort of an issue that occurs at certain points during the day and certain days during the week. And it wouldn't be, this application would have no effect on that existing parking issue.
Okay. All right. Thank you. David, do you have any other questions?
Well, my only question is, you're assuming now so that in every application now, a garage is considered a parking spot. So you don't have to apply a parking spot to any application at all. I mean, that's what you're asking. The applicant is asking to remove the condition of having an additional parking spot, but the applicant is saying the garage is a parking spot. And my feeling is that the garage is a garage and it's not a parking spot. So to alleviate the parking on the road, they're asking for a parking spot. So if somebody else comes, you're not parking on the road, you're parking in a parking spot. Or if there's two cars, which we've had these issues before.
Okay, thank you.
That's all I have to say.
Okay. Mr. Lamont, would you like to comment on that?
Through you, Chair, I guess I'll just say that per the zoning bylaw, there's only one required parking space in accordance with all the requirements of the zoning bylaw. The garage does meet all the requirements. The only additional requirement for a garage parking space is additional width due to obstructions on both sides. The garage is considerably wider than the minimum requirement for obstructions on both sides, so it would meet the requirements, the size requirements for parking space.
Okay, thank you. Ken?
Mr. Chair, I'm a little concerned that a concession at this point seems to be could be a precedent setting. I just want to ask again, with regards to the garage, Ethan, if the owner of that house decided to satisfy the parking lot requirement by tearing down the garage, which would be kind of ludicrous, then that person would be satisfying the condition. Am I correct?
I would have to defer to staff on that. The condition states that a parking space in accordance with the zoning bylaw be provided. So it's a little bit vague in that regard, as there is a parking space for the requirements of the zoning bylaw being provided in the garage. So I'm not sure if tearing down the garage would necessarily satisfy that condition, as we would just be providing the same parking space that already exists. So I'm not sure how the town would deal with that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to comment? Please raise your virtual hand.
Chair, I'm seeing the owner associated with this application has their hand up to provide comments. Would you like me to bring them in?
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Can you see me?
No, did you click on your video?
Oh, here we go. Start my video. Okay. All right. Good. Oh, there. Good evening, everyone. You can see me now?
Yes, yes.
Hi, I'm Sue Leslie. I'm the applicant. And if I could just address a couple of the comments that were just brought up. The garage is attached and there is access into the house. And I do park in the garage. And I would like to say that the comments that were brought up about the parking, it was a disgruntled neighbor that I made the neighbors aware that I was going to try to sever the property. And I have letters actually from 3 of the neighbors saying that they have no issue with it whatsoever. And the one neighbor that wanted to buy the property, the Pantes or Carol Moore, for whatever reason, maybe to make it look like there's more applicants, Carol Ann Moore, I've always known her as Carol Ann Pante, and then Rob Pante, her husband that lived next door. They wanted to buy the property that I'm severing. They were willing to let me sever it as long as I would sell it to them. When I wouldn't sell it to them for pennies on the dollar, and I've got an exchange of text messages here going back and forth. I said, if you know, maybe we could work it out if you want to buy it. And because I wouldn't sell it for them, to them for pennies on the dollar, then they said they will fight this tooth and nail, they'll fight it to the end. And then when it looked like I had all the requirements for the new building lot, when I had all the setbacks, I had all the requirements, then the only other roadblock they could put in was to say, oh, well, let's say that she doesn't have enough parking at the existing house. The house I live in, the house I'm in here right now, it's over 100 years old. It was the Shirk family home. And that wall out the front, that stone wall has been there for over 100 years. And it's part of Ridgeway history. And I really feel that it's just a sour grapes, that if it looks like the lot's going to go through, then maybe we can try another angle. And if I could just show a picture here to everyone. When parking used to be, can everybody see that? Can you see this picture?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When the children used to go in, when the parents would drop off their children on Highland Drive to go to the school, every morning, you see those pylons? They're on city property. Every morning, the neighbors would come out and put those pylons out before the parents arrived. And every night when they came to pick them up, they'd come back out and put those pylons, and the parents couldn't stop. The only spot those parents had were in front of my house, and I never blocked them. They're dropping off their kids in the morning. They park, they walk their kids to the door, they come back to their car, they leave. They're not doing any harm. Plus, that is not private property. That's public property. And that's what the neighbors did every morning to keep parents from parking there.
Okay, thank you. Do the committee members have any questions of Ms. Leslie? David?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
Ken?
Through the chair, thank you for attending tonight's meeting, Susan. Very interested in this application and the impact that the garage, which is part of the building, is located so close to the property line. And in fact, part of that zoning application, as Ethan pointed out, there was approximately 1 meter requirement between the garage and, I guess you would call it, the road allowance. Am I correct in that, Ethan?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. How deep is the garage, Susan? Roughly?
I could measure it. I'm not exactly sure. There's plenty of room. Plus, it's a car and a half wide. So there's lots of room, and there's access from the garage into the house.
And
I actually have the dimension here. It's 11.27 meters. I'm not sure the exact calculation of feet off the top of my head, but I believe that's around or just over 30 feet.
deep?
Deep.
Correct. Deep. Yeah, and it would be 5.18 meters wide.
Okay, all right.
That's almost.
Okay.
Like, the parking hasn't been an issue at this house for 100 years. And now all of a sudden,
No, I was just clarifying the fact of the existing situation and the generous accommodation within the garage for at least one vehicle.
oh yeah, easily. Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay, just a quick question. What happens if you own 2 cars?
I live alone.
No, but once this is done, this carries on with the property for hundreds of years. If you were to sell the property to someone who owned 2 or 3 cars, where would they park their cars?
Well, like, I guess like the other neighbors, like Mr. Pante parks on the road. There is a parking, it's actually paved out the front. It's out the front of the house. It's paved.
Right. So that would be fine up until November. And then there's an issue, of course, you can't park in the streets in the winter. I was just asking if there was room to park 2 cars now.
Yeah, you can in the driveway. There would be the width in the driveway. Like you could park one to the side. So, and if there was one in the garage and back out.
Right, so I think I've asked this question once already, but if you parked another car up to the garage door,
Uh-huh.
the car, would that be extending onto the street?
No, not on the street, no.
There's enough room between the lot line and the garage door to park a car?
Oh, yeah.
There is.
I can park if I'm just coming in quickly and then going back out, if I don't come right into my garage, I can park on the driveway.
Oh, and there's enough room?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
okay, all right.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
You're welcome.
So
Ken?
perhaps to Ethan, you could help clarify to the panel here what exactly Susan is saying. It sounds like she's parking on the municipal road allowance.
If she's parking outside of the garage, she would almost certainly have to park on the municipal road allowance. I
Okay.
understand that there has been some work done in the past where the road allowance was paved beside the road. So I believe that that's used as de facto street parking now, so I'm not sure what the status of that is.
And is there an existing sidewalk there, Ethan?
There's no sidewalk through you, Chair. There's no sidewalk on Sue's side of the road. I believe there would be a sidewalk on the other side of South Mill Street.
The other side.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, if I could, just according to the survey sketch that was submitted with the application, there's only 0.82 meters in front of the garage to the
Oh, okay.
property line. So if a vehicle was parked in front of the garage, it would be encroaching on the road allowance.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
It is all paved, that the driveway, it's paved right to the road.
Right,
Oh,
okay. All right, thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to comment?
Chair, I'm seeing no one else that wishes to speak to this application.
Okay, thank you. Do the committee members have any more questions?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
Okay, and does the applicant want to make any further comments?
I have no further comments, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Then the public hearing regarding this file is now closed. And I'll ask the members present if they would express their views on the proposal. I'll start with you, Dave.
I'll be in favor of this consent file tonight. It meets with approval from the town and it is good planning, so I'll be in favor of it
Okay, that's with all conditions?
with the conditions set forth by the town.
Okay, thank you. Ken?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to, for the respondents who were concerned about the severance, I wanted to read a comment, if I may, from the planning report that the town's official plan and the Ridgeway Thunder Bay secondary plan encourage residential intensification as it maximizes the use of urban land and represents efficient use of municipal infrastructure. The secondary plan notes that new infill lots, such as we have tonight, can be expected to comprise smaller lot area and dimension. That was from the planning report. I was there today, and at first the property looked to me to be too narrow. When I looked at all of the circulated materials, I realized this is a building lot. So the applicant, the owner of the property, has every right to sever the property and to offer it to have a residential building to be built there. The issue regarding the parking, I'm feeling torn because I'm concerned about setting a precedent, but I am understanding that we have an existing situation where even through the zoning bylaw, there was only a 0.82 meter allowance given between the property line and the garage to represent, I guess, what you would call as a parking space. And yet there's a history of parking in front of the garage. There's even a paved area, which is on the municipal road allowance, which is actually on practically every subdivision where you have a long driveway. So I'm thinking that the request from the applicant, or sorry, the Upper Canada consultants is not without reason, because they're addressing an existing situation, and that it would actually create an impairment to the property, the historical value of the property, by taking down the stone wall. So though I would like to support all of the conditions here, I would prefer to, I am wondering about the actual condition of supporting the requirement for the parking lot space to be provided. I'm just in a quandary about that, Mr. Chair. That everything else is fine for me.
So, okay, well, I'll be supporting the application as well, and I support all the conditions. I think back to Hibbard Street when we had garages and the people didn't have enough room to park a car in a garage. And we had, it was sort of, even though any of these decisions are not precedent setting, I believe that this should be approved with the conditions as requested. So I'll entertain a motion now. Dave?
I'd like to put a motion forward that, considering all written and oral submissions, that consent file B10-22 FB be accepted with all the conditions set forth in all the various reports.
Is there a seconder? I'll second it. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Your application has been approved. You will receive written notice of the committee's decision. It becomes final as long as no appeals are received within 20 days of the notice. Thanks very much for appearing.
Thank you for your time.
Where's my stuff? Okay, the second application tonight is consent minor variances B11, B12, A20, and A21, which we'll hear concurrently. The address is 1386 Garrison Road. The applicant is Patricia Kent and Jefferson Kent, and the owner is Patricia Kent. Mackenzie, could you bring them in, please? Good evening, Mr. Kent. Kent, do you have your volume on?
Okay, let's try that.
Oh, there you go. How
It
are you
wasn't
tonight?
muted. It somehow muted itself.
There you
That's
go. Are you
confusing.
ready to proceed tonight, sir?
Yes, yes, I am.
Okay, Brianna, could you read a summary of the related correspondence and comments received, please?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. Applications B1122 and B1222 for 1386 Garrison Road, submitted by Patricia and Jefferson Kent, is our consent applications proposing the creation of 2 new lots for future residential development. The retained lot, comprised of parts 3 and 4 on the severance sketch, has an existing 1-story dwelling and will continue its residential use. The new lots denoted as parts 1 and 2 on the sketch are proposed for future residential development. A concurrent 2 concurrent minor variance applications have been submitted with the application to request relief from the minimum lot frontage and lot area requirements for part 1 and the minimum lot frontage requirements for part 2. The applicant is requesting to reduce the minimum lot frontage for part 1 from 20 meters to 15.69 meters, to reduce the minimum lot area requirement for part 1 from 600 square meters to 503.5 square meters, and to reduce the minimum lot frontage for part 2 from 18 meters to 17.57 meters. Staff has reviewed the applications and offers no objection to the consent application, conditional upon for B1122, which is part 1, approval of the minor variance for file A 2022 by the Committee of Adjustment, payment of 5% cash in lieu for parkland dedication, that the portion of the existing driveway associated with part 3 that encroaches onto part 1 be removed, that the applicant install 1 parking space on part 3, that a copy of the registered reference plan be submitted to the town, and that final certification be payable to the town. And for B1222, approval of minor variance filed A2122, payment of 5% cash in lieu, that the applicant install 1 parking space on part 3, and that the applicant provide a copy of the registered deposited reference plan to staff, and that final certification fee be paid to the town. Additional comments and conditions. Building Services has reviewed the application and has no comments. Our Infrastructure Services Department has reviewed the application and offers the following conditions for part 1: that the applicant make payment of $1,500 for 3 trees, that an overall lot grading plan for part 1 and 2 be submitted, that the applicant enter into a development agreement with the town of Fort Erie for the purpose of the extension of the water main and works associated with the lot servicing and restoration of the town road allowance as a result of such servicing works. For part 2, that the applicant make payment of $500 for 1 tree. Condition number 2, that an overall lot grading plan for part 1 and 2 be submitted, and that the applicant and owner enter into development agreement, same as mentioned for part 1. No comments from Infrastructure Services in regards to the minor variance application. Regional staff have reviewed the proposed applications and provide that they have no objection, but that the above mentioned noise mitigation materials and devices are incorporated into the building and construction of site design, and that a warning clause be provided and included within all future purchases of sale and lease agreements for the property. The MTO has no objection to the applications out of their control area, and that is all the comments and conditions received.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kent, would you like to comment on the application or any of the correspondence?
Yeah, I just have a couple of things. If you all can stand talking about parking spaces, I bet you can't. Yeah, just to say that condition has already been satisfied, because a prior application, I think it was B31/21, which would have been part 4 in this same whole property, received final consent just at the end of last week. And the parking space, which is on part 3, was part of that consent. So the parking space has already been satisfied.
Okay.
We can take this up with Brianna later or whatever. It doesn't really matter. I'm just pointing that out for tonight, that condition that's in there has already been taken care of. There is a new parking space on part 3.
Well, leaving the condition or not, that wouldn't negatively affect the application, would it?
No, I'm just saying that condition has been, just for whatever.
Okay, it's been met.
It's there. And other than that, no, this is a revisiting of, it was about a year ago. And the same property, we were doing it as 1. And at the time, Anamika had suggested, the town would probably like it if you actually did it as 2.
Right.
And here we are a year later. And, the intensification and urbanization, it really made sense, especially in view of the fact that there's, water main and sewer extension required, which is quite costly, as I'm sure you know. And by the way, that is underway. We've retained Carrie T. Howe Engineering in St. Catharines, and they've already completed the topographical survey as that part. So things are moving along well in that capacity. So that's all I have to really say. So
Great. Okay, thank you. Do the committee members have any questions? Ken?
Yes, Mr. Chair, just a question to Brianna. The comments provided by the region in their conclusion almost suggest that it's like a condition. But do you read it as such? Because it doesn't, I don't know how you would enforce a condition like that for Mr. Kent to satisfy.
So in the past, we have included these sometimes as a condition, and the lawyer or solicitor overseeing the file has provided an undertaking that upon future purchases and sales, that warning clause will be included. With that being said, we have advised the region when submitting comments to really denote that they want that included as a condition, which they haven't in this case. So it won't be included as a condition of consent. So the applicant and owner are made aware of the region's request, but it's not a specific condition requested by them.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Dave, do you have any questions?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, and I do not. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to comment? Please raise your virtual hand.
Chair, I'm seeing no one that wishes to speak to this application.
Okay, thank you. The public hearing regarding this file is now closed, and I'll ask the members present if they would express their views on the proposal. Ken?
Mr. Chair, I'll be in support of this application for the consent. The applicant is okay with all of the conditions that have been presented. It meets all of the requirements of the planning authorities with the conditions that are attached, and including the comments from the region, but is not a condition. Thank you, Brianna.
Thank you, Dave.
I'll also be in favor of this consent file. It's a good creation of infill lots in Fort Erie, which everybody is in favor of. So I'll be in favor of this application tonight.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll now entertain a motion. We'll do the consent applications first, I guess. Ken?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that in consideration of all the written and oral submissions, that consent application file B0922, B1022 for 1386 Garrison Road meets Planning Act criteria, is consistent with provincial policy statement, and complies with the growth plan, Niagara Region official plan, and the official plan, and that it be approved with all of the stated conditions for the provisional consent.
Okay, thank you. Is there a seconder?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Okay, the application for consent has been approved. You receive written notice of the committee's decision, and the decision will become final so long as no appeals are received within 20 days of the notice. Now we'll entertain a motion for the minor variances, please. Ken? You're on a hot streak.
I don't think we've actually received Brianna's comments on that yet, have we?
Oh, yeah.
Pardon me then, not paying attention. Through the chair, I'd like to make a motion, or the comments are that I would be in support of the minor variances as presented in the report.
Oh, thank you, David.
I'll also be in favor of this minor variance tonight. It meets the 4 tests and I have no issue with it.
Okay, thank you. I'll entertain a motion now.
Thank you. I would like to make a motion that in consideration of all the written and oral submissions, that minor variance files A2022 and A2122 for 1386 Garrison Road meets the Planning Act test for minor variance, and that it be approved.
Okay, thank you. Seconder?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Okay, your application has been approved. You'll receive written notice of the committee's decision, and the decision will become final so long as no appeals are received within 20 days of the notice. Thanks very much for appearing tonight.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. And that was just 12 minutes, by the way. You gained some time.
Okay, our next file tonight is minor variance file A1522, 312 Prospect Point Road South. The applicant is Jason Pizzacarola and the owner is William and Christy Connor. Could you bring Jason, please, in?
Good evening.
Good evening, how are you?
Good.
Are you ready to proceed tonight, Jason?
I am.
Okay. Brianna, could you please read a summary of the related correspondence and comments received, please?
Application A1522 for 312 Prospect Point Road South, submitted by applicant Jason Pizzacarola and owner William and Krista Connor. Is requesting permission under subsection 45(2)(a)(I) of the Planning Act for an enlargement or extension of a non-conforming dwelling. The applicant is proposing to demolish the legal non-conforming single detached dwelling on the property with a floor area of 334.96 square meters and to reconstruct a new single detached dwelling with the same amount of floor area but with a different building footprint. Planning staff have reviewed the application and have no objection to the proposal. Building department offers no objection or comment. Infrastructure services, no comments or conditions. Niagara region offer no objection to the proposed minor variance application. The MTO offer no objection to the application, and there are some conditions that were provided by the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority. The subject parcel is impacted by Lake Erie shoreline and the natural hazards associated with the shoreline. The MPCA staff have no objection, subject to the following conditions. One, that the landowner provide pictures and evidence that the existing shore wall is in good condition to mitigate the erosion hazard to the satisfaction of NPA staff. Two, that the landowner obtain a work permit from the NPCA prior to beginning any work related to development or site alteration. In support of the work permit application, the following information will be required. A detailed site plan showing the means are provided to mitigate the wave uprush hazard for the new home and any accessory structures. That no openings are constructed within the structure below the regulatory 100-year flood elevation and safe access egress is provided. Watertight doors added to the lakeside portion of the home, and safety concerns are addressed due to the flood hazard are addressed for all portions of the new home and any other accessory structures. And lastly, an erosion and sediment control plan is submitted as part of the application. And that's it for all the comments received.
Okay, thank you. Jason, would you like to comment on the application or any of the correspondence received?
Just that we'd like to, obviously, the recommendations by the MPCA we'll have to follow through with, and they're all very reasonable. The shoreline protection there is good. Work permit is expected. The site plan will be having some, like they do currently, there's some low wall that does protect them from the high water mark. In all areas will be above the 177. Over the last 3 years, as many of you know, we've had a lot of storms, and their current house, the way it's situated, hasn't had any issues. So within the new proposal will only get better. So we'll be up slightly higher. We only, I think, we had to come up about 10 centimeters or so. So this new scenario will be a better situation than what's currently exists. The current situation wasn't too bad anyway. So, and erosion sediment plan, also not a problem. So all conditions I feel are reasonable and we can meet them.
Great, thank you. Do the committee members have any questions? Dave?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
Ken?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
And I have no questions. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to comment? Please raise your virtual hand now.
Chair, I'm seeing no one that wishes to speak to this application.
Okay, thank you. The public hearing regarding this file is now closed, and I'd ask the members present if they'd like to express their views on the proposal. Dave?
I'll be in favor of this minor variance tonight, Mr. Chair. It's supported by the town staff, and I also support what's being proposed.
Thank you. Ken?
Mr. Chair, I would also be supporting the application for the minor variance. It meets the 4 tests, and the applicant is agreeable to the NPCA conditions.
Okay, thank you. I'll now entertain a motion.
I'll put a motion forward, Mr. Chair, that all written and oral comments received this evening be considered, and that minor variance application A1522 be accepted with all the conditions set forth in various reports.
I'll
Thank
second
you.
the motion.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, your motion has been approved. You'll receive written notice of the committee's decision. The decision will become final so long as no appeals are received within the next 20 days. Thank you.
It's wonderful. Good evening.
Okay, the next minor variance file tonight is minor variance file A1522. The address is 2297 Stanley Park Road. The applicant is Matt and Alicia Quagliarello, and the owners are the same. Could you bring Mr. Quagliarello in, please? Good evening. How are you, sir?
Hello,
Good evening. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, perfect. I ask the Secretary Treasurer, please, to read a summary of the related correspondence regarding this file, please.
Application A1622 for 2297 Stanley Park Road, submitted by Matt and Alicia Quagliarello. The application is submitted to permit the erection of an accessory structure, garden shed in the front yard. The applicant also requested a variance to increase the maximum permitted height of the proposed accessory structure. However, the applicant has requested to withdraw this variance request. Staff has reviewed the application and offer no objection, subject to the following condition: that the proposed accessory structure be restricted to a size of no more than 4.27 meters by 9.75 meters as outlined on the plan, and maintains a minimum setback of 85 meters from the front lot line and 1 meter from the southerly interior side lot line. Building services offer no objection or comments to the application. Infrastructure services do not object to the application, but do note that the proposed garden shed must be constructed outside of the easement for the town's water main. Niagara Region has reviewed the application and do not object to the proposal. The NPCA have also reviewed the application and offer no objections. And sorry, lastly, the MTO offer no objections or comments to the application as well. And that is all the comments provided.
Thanks very much. Mr. Quagliarello, would you like to comment on the application or any of the correspondence received?
No, there doesn't seem like there's anything that I need to say about it.
Okay, thank you. Do the committee members have any questions? Ken?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
Dave?
I also do not, Mr. Chair.
And I have no questions. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to comment? Please raise your virtual hand.
Chair, I'm seeing no one that wishes to speak to this application.
Okay, thank you. The public hearing regarding this file is now closed. And I'll ask the members present if they would express their view on the proposal. Ken?
Mr. Chair, I would be in support of the minor variance for 2297 Stanley Park Road. It meets the 4 tests for a minor variance. And there are no comments from the neighboring public with regards to the accessory building.
Okay, thank you, Dave.
I will also be in favor of this minor variance tonight, Mr. Chair. I'm in agreement with my colleague. It meets the 4 tests and I don't have any issue with it.
Okay, thank you. I'll now entertain a motion. Ken?
Mr. Chair, I would make a motion that in consideration of all the written and oral submissions, that minor variance file A1622 for 2297 Stanley Park Road meets the Planning Act tests for minor variance and that it be approved. I believe there are some conditions with regards to the, no, that's not it. That was another one, sorry. No conditions.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, wait a minute.
No, there was
There was one,
a
yeah.
couple of conditions.
Sorry, getting confused again. Sorry about that.
Okay, thank you. Is there a seconder?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Carried. Your application has been approved, sir. You will receive written notice of the committee's decision, and the decision will become final so long as no appeals are received within 20 days of the notice. Thanks very much for attending tonight.
Thank you very much.
The next file tonight is minor variance file A1722. The address is 546 Craft Road. The applicant is Sarah and Tom Goodwin. And you're here already. Okay. Good evening. How are you? Are you ready to proceed tonight?
All right, can you hear us now?
Yes, we can. How are you?
Oh, okay. Sorry, we were using a speaker and I think it was taking the both feeds. Anyways, yes, we are ready to proceed. Sorry.
Brianna, could you please read a summary of the related correspondence and comments received, please?
Application A1722 for 546 Craft Road submitted by Sarah and Tom Goodwin. The purpose of this application is to permit an increase in building height for a proposed detached garage in the southeast rear yard of the subject property. The proposed garage is 9.14 meters by 16.93 meters. Planning staff have reviewed the application and are in support of the requested variance with the added condition that no window openings be installed on the south side of the proposed structure. Building department has reviewed the application and has no comments. Infrastructure services has no comment. The application has been circulated to the regional municipality of Niagara, who have reviewed it, and they also do not offer an objection to the proposed minor variance. And the NPCA offer no objection to the minor variance as well. Lastly, MTO provides no objection to the application.
Okay, thank you. Would the applicants like to make any comments on the application or any correspondence received?
No, we can't put any windows in the sides of that garage anyways. It's a steel building and you can't put anything on the sides of it. So there will never be any windows on the side.
Okay, great. Thank you. Do the committee members have any questions? Dave?
I do not.
Ken?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
And I have no questions. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to comment? Please raise your virtual hand.
Chair, I'm seeing no one that wishes to speak to this application.
Okay, thank you. Then the public hearing regarding this file is now closed. I'll ask the members to express their views on the proposal. Dave?
Mr. Chair, I'll be in favor of this minor variance this evening. It meets the 4 tests and I see no issues.
Okay, thank you. Ken?
Mr. Chair, I concur with my fellow member. Also, don't have any issues with it.
Okay, thank you. I'll now entertain a motion.
I'll put a motion forward, Mr. Chair, that considering all written and oral comments, that minor variance file A1722 be accepted with the conditions set forth in this application.
Thank you.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor? Okay, your application has been approved. You will receive written notice of the committee's decision, and this decision will become final so long as no appeals are received within 20 days of the notice. Thanks very much for appearing tonight. Okay. Okay, the next application tonight is minor variance file A1822. The address is 2717 Niagara River Parkway. The applicant is Salvatore DeRose, and the owners are Chuck and Nancy Blair. and he's coming in.
You're on, Sam. Hello. Oh my
Hello.
God. Again. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can't see you.
We're just working on that.
Okay.
The owners, Mr. Blair's in the hospital, not well.
Oh,
And I'm Sam DeRose. I'm a professional engineer representing them.
okay.
This happened the last.
Are you going to be able to, are we just going to hear, or can you flick on your video or no? It doesn't really matter.
It didn't seem to work, so.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll continue then. Brianna, could you please read a summary of the related correspondence and comments received, please?
Application A1822 for 2717 Niagara River Parkway submitted by applicant Salvatore DeRose and owner Chuck and Nancy Blair. This application proposes to reduce the minimum interior side yard setback on the south side of the dwelling to facilitate the construction of a proposed 26.79 square meter raised sunroom addition. Planning staff reviewed the application and support the requested variance. Building department has reviewed the application and have no comments. Infrastructure services have no comment. The regional municipality of Niagara have also reviewed the application and provide that they are not in objection to the requested variance. Niagara Parks Commission has reviewed the application. They too that provide that permits will be required from the MPC, including heavy vehicle permits for the use of Niagara River Parkway for vehicles in excess of 5,000 kilograms used during the demolition of the existing deck and construction of the sunroom, but otherwise are not opposed to the application. And the MTO is also not opposed to the application.
Thank you. Mr. DeRose, would you like to comment on the application or any of the correspondence received?
I know it seems straightforward. I think everything will be okay. They're not doing anything drastic.
Okay, thank you. Do the committee members have any questions of the applicant? Ken?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
Dave?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
And I have no questions. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to comment on the application? Please raise your virtual hand.
Chair, I'm seeing no one that wishes to speak to this application.
Okay, thank you. The public hearing regarding this file is now closed, and I'll ask the members if they would express their view on the proposal. Ken?
Mr. Chair, I would be in support of the minor variance. It meets the 4 tests for being a minor variance and for approval, and all of the reporting agencies are in support of it.
Thank you, Dave.
I will also be in favor of this minor variance tonight. As Ken said, it meets the 4 tests and I have no problems with it.
Okay, thank you. I'll now entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to that in consideration of all the written and oral submissions that minor variance file A1822 for 2717 Niagara River Parkway meets the Planning Act tests for minor variance and that it be approved.
Thank you. Is there a seconder?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Okay, your application has been approved. You will receive written notice of the committee's decision, and the decision will become final so long as no appeals are received within 20 days of the notice. Thanks very much for appearing tonight.
Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. The next application tonight is minor variance file A2222. The address is 0 Cherrywood Avenue. Applicant is Velocity Designs Association, Inc. Venice, oh boy. Jaganomohon, sorry, I apologize for that actually. And the owner is Fernando Solanese and Andrew Marchisio.
Hello, can
Good
you hear me?
evening. Can I call you just Vinoth? I don't think I can pronounce your.
Actually, I'm Fernando. So Vinod is on the phone. I'm one of the owners of the property, so I'll speak on the behalf of the application.
Oh, okay, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, you ready to proceed?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks. Brianna, could you please read a summary of the related correspondence and comments received, please?
Application A2222 for 016816 Cherrywood Avenue, submitted by applicant Bennett Yegan Mohan from Velocity Design Associates Inc. and owners Fernando Solanas and Andrews Marquisio. The purpose and effect of this application is to permit a reduced interior side yard setback on the north and south sides of the subject property and to permit development on a parcel with reduced lot frontage to facilitate the development of a single detached dwelling on the subject property. The application seeks to permit a reduced interior side yard setback of 1.20 meters for a 1.5 story dwelling on both the north and south side yards of the property. The R2B zone requires a minimum interior side yard setback of 1.5 meters for a 1.5 story dwelling. The application also seeks to permit development on a lot with efficient lot frontage of 9.75 meters. The R2B zone requires a minimum lot frontage of 10 meters for development. Planning staff have reviewed the application and are in support of the requested variance to permit the development on an existing lot with 9.75 meters of lot frontage. However, planning staff do not support the requested variance to reduce the interior side yard setbacks to 1.20 meters, as they feel it does not meet the intent of the bylaw, which was established in order to prevent massing impacts resulting from infill development and to prevent new dwellings from overpowering the parcel. Building Services has reviewed the application and offer no objection or comments. Infrastructure Services have reviewed the application and have no comment. The MTO has reviewed and has no comments. We do have some public comments that were submitted in regards to the application. They read, "Greetings, Brianna, please include our comments below at the minor variance hearing on March 17th for A2222. 016816 Cherrywood Avenue. As the property owners directly to the north of the subject site on Cherrywood Avenue, we would like to oppose the proposed side yard reduction. We do not object to the development in principle, but have serious concerns for the impact of the proposed construction on the mature trees near the shared property line. These trees are an integral component of the character of the neighborhood and also provide valuable shade and cooling during the summer heat. The drawing provided for the minor variance application does not mention the type of foundation proposed for this new dwelling, but we fear a traditional poured concrete foundation would impart irreparable damage to the root system of the tree near the midpoint of the property. We can only offer the recommendation that a pier foundation with sensitively placed piers could significantly reduce damage to tree roots near our shared property line. Yours truly, Edward Winter and Sarah O'Reilly at 297 Cherrywood Avenue. And that is all the comments that have been received.
Okay, thank you. Would the applicant like to comment on the application or any of the correspondence received?
Yes, I think actually, after seeing the planning review, we're comfortable with removing the portion of the side setbacks, as part of the application, and would like to proceed with the other portion, which was the allowing to build on the slightly narrower lot. So we actually not require the 1.5 meter or 1.2 meter setback.
So you will adhere to the 1.2? Oh,
Correct.
sorry,
the 1.5, I think.
1.5 and still do a multi-story house? Is that
correct?
Okay, I see. Okay, do the committee members have any questions of the applicant? Dave?
He answered my question, so that's
okay.
None. Thanks.
Okay, Ken?
Through the chair, when visiting the property earlier today, I noticed that there was a large red X on that tree
I saw that.
in the mid part of the building or mid part of the property. I was curious as to what the X indicated.
That's a very good question. We didn't put the X.
Very good. Thank you.
I know our intent is not to remove the tree either, so just needs to go on record. Right?
Just for curiosity's sake, then how would you deal with doing a foundation of sorts in order to preserve the that tree?
We had a gentleman drop by there and kind of look at the trees already, as it were, and obviously made some comments when we did the initial planning and seeing where the drip lines were and so forth. So I think the idea was that just the way the construction is, we feel that there is sufficient space within that, especially now considering we will add that remove the additional setback piece. We feel that there's sufficient space there to safely build out the system.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Further to Ken's question about the trees are not on your property, are they?
There is one in the very front that I believe is partially on our property, then one at the very back I believe is not on our property, and the very first tree I believe is a city tree.
Okay, but the one in the middle, the one that Ken mentioned, there is a red X on it, so it looks to me like it's going to be taken down. Doesn't look in great health anyway, not that I'm an arborist. My other question, are you going to put a basement under this residence?
That was the plan, yes.
Really? Okay, all right. Okay. That's all the questions I have. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to comment? Please raise your virtual hand.
Sure, we do have one member of the public that would like to come in and speak, so I'll be bringing them in.
Okay. Oh, Mr. Winter,
Good evening.
how are you?
Very well, thank you.
Thank you. And your name is?
My name is Edward Winter,
Okay, and your address?
297 Cherrywood Avenue.
Okay, great. Okay,
So I guess, I didn't want to interrupt you there.
no, that's fine, sorry.
Okay, so we're interested to hear more about the tree with the red X on it, because that one would be on our property. But that, I mean, and we certainly didn't draw an X on it. And the tree is in good health, actually. It is a maple tree, I believe. And I think the tree at the front of the lot would be on the city property. And then there's one at the rear that's also like a shared tree. I believe it's on the property line or very close to it. So yes, we're concerned about damage to the tree roots and resulting in the loss of the tree. We understand that they want to build and they have every right to build. We're just asking for every protection that is reasonable to be taken.
Okay, thank you. Would the applicant like to comment on that?
Yeah, so just to reinstate, I'm not really sure how the X got there. We did not put the X, either of the owners. So, and absolutely, we would do what we can to protect the trees and the tree line in general.
Okay. Mr. Winter, you are aware that they have waived the 1.2 meter and they've moved to the 1.5, which meets the setbacks?
Yes, we heard that.
Okay.
And yep, that we understand that.
Okay, great. Thank you. Would you like to make any other comments?
No, I guess welcome to the neighborhood. We haven't met the owners before, but
thank you.
Yeah, yeah, we have no objection to the building in principle, as we said. We just wish that we can or hope that we can avoid losing any more trees, as the previous owner did unfortunately cut down a number of trees prior to selling, which was a shame because there was a very large oak tree removed on the back of the property, which I guess was the previous owner's right. It was solely on their property, but a shame nonetheless.
Right. Do the committee members have any questions of Mr. Winter? Dave?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
Ken?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
Okay. And I do not. Do the applicants wish to make any other comments on the application?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to comment on the application? Please raise your virtual hand.
Chair, I'm seeing no one else that wishes to speak to this application.
Thank you. Is there anyone that wishes to make any further comments? Okay, seeing none, the public hearing regarding this file is now closed, and I'll ask the members present if they would express their views on the proposal. Ken?
Mr. Chair, I would be in support of the minor variance as stated and laid out by the staff. We've heard from the applicants that they are okay with maintaining the 1.5 meter side yard setback. We've also heard from the neighbors that they are okay with the efforts that will be made to save as best possible the health of the tree. And this proposal meets all of the other 4 tests.
Okay, thank you. Dave?
I'll also be in favor of it this evening, Mr. Chair. It meets the 4 tests, and considering the applicant's change in his request, I have no issue with it.
Okay, thank you. When we do the motion, Brianna, we can just do the motion with the fact that it's going to be 1.5 meters? Yeah, okay, thank you. I'll now entertain a motion. Ken?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that in consideration of all written and oral submissions that minor variance file A22/22 for 0-16816 Cherrywood Avenue meets the Planning Act test for minor variance, and that it be approved with stated conditions.
Seconder?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, your application has been approved. You will receive written notice of the committee's decision, and the decision will become final so long as no appeals are received within 20 days of the notice. Thank you very much for appearing tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, the final application tonight is minor variance file A2322. The address is 2597 Windmill Point West Lane. The applicant is Sean Sider, and the owner is Nancy Robertson. Could we bring Mr. Sider in, please?
Good evening, everyone.
Good afternoon, Mr. Sider. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Are you ready to proceed tonight?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Brianna, could you please read a summary of the related correspondence and comments received, please?
Application A2322 for 2597 Windmill Point Lane West, submitted by applicant Sean Sider from Sider Bros Builders Limited, and owner Nancy Robertson proposes to reduce the minimum setback from the 1-in-100-year flood elevation to facilitate the demolition of the existing dwelling and construction of a new dwelling, 521.66 square meters on the subject property. Planning staff have reviewed the application and are in support of the requested variance. Infrastructure Services has reviewed the application and have offered a comment that the applicant ensure the proposed garage is not encroaching into the easement as shown on the plan it currently is. Niagara Regional staff were circulated on the application and offer no objection to the proposed minor variance, provided that the owner continues with the septic permit application process for the new dwelling and that the existing septic system is properly decommissioned. Obviously, anything of archaeological significance is to be reported. And the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority were also circulated and offer no objection to the application. Lastly, MTO also offer no objection to the application. And that's all.
Thank you. Mr. Sider, would you like to comment on the application or any of the correspondence received?
The only comment I'd like to make is I just wanted to let everyone know that the owner has installed a new engineered shore wall there, so they do have good shore protection. And the other comment I'd like to make is just as long as everybody's aware that the new house is in fairly close quarters as to the existing house, and it's more the open deck that is pushing it a little bit forward, which is just 3 risers up. So it's only about 20 inches off the ground.
All right. Okay, thank you. Do the committee members have any questions of the applicant? Dave?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
Ken? Ken, you're on mute.
Sorry, I do not, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. And I have no questions. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to comment? Please raise their virtual hand.
Chair, I'm seeing no one that wishes to speak to this application.
Okay, then the public hearing regarding this file is now closed, and I'll ask the members present if they wish to express their views on the proposal.
I'll be in favor of this minor variance this evening, Mr. Chair. It meets the 4 tests, and I have no issues with what's being proposed.
Thank you. Ken?
Mr. Chair, I concur with my fellow member and have no issues with it.
Okay, thank you. Then I'll entertain a motion at this time.
I'll put a motion forward that minor variance file A23-22 be considered with all written and oral comments received this evening. I believe there are a couple of conditions in this application.
Has to do with the easement, I believe, too.
Just that the applicant ensure that I believe it's the garage, not encroach on, but the proposed garage not be encroaching into the easement as shown on the plan. So that will have to be revised at building permit stage. So I will include that as a note on the decision.
And the septic bed too?
That wasn't included as a condition, just a note from the region that the applicants to continue on with the permit for the septic, continue with the septic permit application.
Okay.
Thank you, Ken.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, all in favor? The motion has been approved. You will receive written notice of the committee's decision, and the decision will become final so long as no appeals are received within 20 days of the notice. Thanks very much for appearing tonight.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening.
You too. Okay. Now I need the adoption of the minutes for, is it February, correct? Brianna? Moved by Ken. Seconded by
I'll second it.
Dave. All in favor? Carried. Is there any other business? I guess
I don't
seeing.
have.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
I don't have any.
Okay. Anybody else? No? Okay. And our next hearing is April 7th, 2022, and it's going to be at the town hall, right?
Right, first one.
Oh,
In a long
I guess I
time.
should I have announced that at the first of the meeting? Or doesn't it matter?
I've been, everyone who's coming with an application, I've let them know that it's going to be an in-public meeting, so.
Okay. Now,
they're
how
aware.
about, are they still going to allow people to come in virtually?
No,
They're not.
no.
Oh. Mackenzie, you getting fired?
No, I'm bringing Mackenzie with me.
Oh, good. Okay.
I'm making her come.
That's good. Okay.
I figured it'd be
So-
good to have her on hand. In Niagara Falls, what we did, we always had someone on hand in case there were questions from the public, and we could pull up on, we have a screen in council chambers. If we needed to pull up the map, or if anyone has any questions regarding the application or sketch, we can maybe pull it up there. Or if any presentations like tonight are being made, Mackenzie can spearhead that. So
Oh, that's good. Yeah, gosh.
as long as she wants to still come with me.
Oh. That's well. So then we are adjourning at 7:34. Do I need a motion for that?
I think we just.
Huh?